Welcome to another edition of Inside the Issues. Inside the Issues is sponsored by the League of Women Voters Richfield. My name is Maureen Scalia, and I'm the moderator for the show this evening. Today, I have taken 3 people from a very busy schedule and asked them to be on the show. I'm honored to have with me Marta Shavan. Is that right or close enough? Who is the principal of Richfield's dual language school, and that's a K through 5, correct?
Yes.
And then the next person is Joey Page, and he is the principal of Richfield's STEM school, which I believe is in his 3rd year this year or 4th?
This will be our 6th year.
Oh, 6th, oh my goodness, time's flies.
Already, yes.
And then on my far left, we have Brian Zambrino, who is principal of the middle school. And maybe the most challenging age group, maybe not.
Many people say that. Many people say that.
Very welcome, and again, we're very appreciative that you take your time. I usually start out the programs by asking each one of you to share a little bit about yourself and how you came to be in your position. Marta, if you will begin.
Well, thank you. Originally, my first degree, as we were talking before, was not in education. It was medical technology, it was called. So I work in the laboratory, but deep inside, I always wanted to be a teacher. So I went back to school for my master in education and then pursue my license for principal, not thinking that I was going to be a principal. I came to Richfield as a literacy coach. So I was the literacy coach in the dual immersion program for 2 years before taking the position as a principal.
So you've been at dual language school for
7 years.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And Mr. Page?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be in education. I think I was fortunate to have the parents that really pushed the education. I had a very adventurous grandmother too that ran a boarding house for men in Austin, Minnesota, which had a strong educational component within it. So I graduated from Dakota State University with a degree in elementary education and special education, and then took my first teaching job with the Bloomington Public Schools, where I pursued my master's degree in library media specialist degree, and eventually a principal license. And my first principalship was in Granite Falls, Minnesota, with the Yellow Medicine East School District.
Yeah.
I was a principal of 2 schools, and then came to Richfield as a principal at Sheridan Hills for 6 years, and then for the last 6 years I've been at the Richfield STEM School, and I'm happy to be there.
Yes, and so you have experience in a much more rural community. But in Richfield, we like to think ourselves as the urban hometown.
Yes.
So I guess that's appropriate. Mr. Zambrino, tell us how you got to be principal of middle school.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'm wasn't as motivated as these two. I didn't always know I would be an educator. I always have that desire, but my mother was an educator and my godmother was an educator, and they had always encouraged me to be an educator. So I guess they saw that before I did in myself. But I had a bachelor's degree. We talked before the show a little bit about my studies at the University of Minnesota, and after completing that, looked at some jobs and just kind of found an opportunity to start as a substitute teacher in Minneapolis Public Schools. My mom, of course, pushing me towards giving that a shot, and I'm glad she did. I really enjoyed it. Fell in love with teaching the kids. I've always said I tend to learn as much from the kids as I teach them. Hopefully I teach them more, but sometimes it feels like I learn as much from them. And I worked in Minneapolis Public Schools. I taught special education for a number of years, also taught English as a second language. Went across the river to St. Paul Public Schools, and taught English as a second language to new-to-country students. And those kids I really did learn a lot from. They had such tremendous life experience for how short their lives were at that point, and inspired me quite a bit. But along the way, I had a number of people pushing me towards administration and thinking about becoming a school administrator. Did become an administrator in St. Paul Public Schools. I worked at their district office for a while coordinating ESL programming, and then became an assistant principal. And then when I saw the Richfield Middle School position open up, it just seemed like a perfect fit with my background, with working with multicultural students, and having taught special education and ESL, and knowing that those were needs in the district. It just seemed like a really nice match. And so this is my 6th year at the school, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. It's a great community, as I think you know, and we get great support from the community. I think that's one of the best parts, is that we know the community is behind all of us as administrators and teachers in the district, and so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that is an important part of Richfield, that the city is, I mean, the residents really have supported us. I mean, passing a bonding issue with 86% is really almost unheard of.
Absolutely.
It's really good. So maybe we'll start with you, Mr. Oh gosh, I'm Paige. What is a principal, and what are the primary duties of a principal? And then your other two can chime in and elaborate and add and subtract.
Sure, they can grade me.
Yes, that's it.
Well, I think the primary role of the principalship is really the safety and security of the students and the staff. That's number one, and making sure that the building is ready to receive the kids for the day, and the adults are in place to work with the children through the day. Looking at the organization of that, but really a function of the job then is providing the instructional leadership for the building and direction as far as what's happening in the building. We're not isolated from the district, so we are part of a system in Richfield. We're all public schools, and so the role of the principalship I see is really operationalizing those strategic missions and visions and strategic plans of the district to really bring that to life in the building for kids and for adults.
Anything else that either of you two have found that especially strikes you, that you would like to share with the audience about being a principal?
I think just chiming to what Joey has mentioned, I consider myself as a principal, like a teacher also. I am a teacher there to guide, support the teachers and our students, because I want the best for them, the safety, and then comes the instructional part. So being that leader is being that role model, having that experience of having been a teacher. And like Brian mentioned, having that experience in himself, he had that experience with the ESL, the second language learners and special education. We bring that different lens that we can then share with the others and give ideas. So because sometimes you feel that you need to brainstorm together, so that's what we are there as a support for our teachers, so that they do the best that they can do for our students.
Do you see yourself kind of like a coach?
You know, it's funny because that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
We do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very lucky to have phenomenal teachers, and so, and it's a little different at elementary and secondary. Me being a secondary, my teachers focus in an area, so often they hold more expertise than I do, and so sometimes it's just helping them find the resources, the path, or what they maybe already know, and just bringing that to light. And so I really focus a lot on trying to empower my staff and build leadership within my team, knowing that I can't be an expert in math and science and social in every content area, where the elementary teachers have to kind of take all that on. So it's a little bit of a different role, generalist versus specialist. But because my staff specialize, they are more highly trained in those areas than I am, and so really trying to coach them along and help them find resources that actually allow them to tap into their own skills and talents. And having such a talented staff really makes that a lot
Makes a
easier.
difference.
Yeah.
And the role of the principal as relates to the parents, is there a role there, an interaction? How do you see that? Ms. Shashavan, how do you interact with the parents as a principal?
I would say similar. We try to build that community because we cannot do it alone. I always used to say that for the success of the students, like a triangle. We have the child, we have the school, and then we have the parents. So we have to work together in order to have the success of our students. So it's very important to be there for the parents, to listen to them, to process, and to work with them. listen to their experience, and then we can also provide the other side, what we see in the school, and then they share with us what they see at home, and then together we can create the best plan to help each child, because children are different one from the other. So they are special, and that's why we want to make parents important. They are a big role, they play a big role in our schools. I know that's what you mentioned. In Richfield, we are blessed with the support that we have from parents. We have parents who are constantly supporting, either physically in the building or behind the scene. The ones that cannot be there, they are behind the scene. So we have a great support from
That's
parents.
wonderful.
Yeah, I would
And
agree
you
with-
see it at all at your school and at your level too.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I know, often people say, I would never want to be a principal, and they think about parents and having to deal with parents, and my interactions with parents have been really positive, and they know that we're there for the best interest of their children, and it's really a collaborative effort. I think, as Marta was speaking to, that all those pieces coming together, working together to support kids, and our parents really support us, and so if they contact me, it's problem solving or figuring out what we need to do, but it's never blaming, it's never questioning what we do. It's just really, here's how something's happening, what can we do, and we always move forward in a positive way, and it's just been really great for me to be a principal in this district.
That's great, because I mean, as a parent who had kids go through schools, it's you guys are the expertise in terms of education, and I sometimes think some of the discipline, it really is my job. I know I used to tell my kids, you behave, because I don't want to hear the principal call me. I don't want to have them call me unless it's a good thing. So I can't complain. They were good kids. But, it's that interaction and parents trying to find out how they can best support your roles and vice versa.
Well, it is funny that you mentioned that, because sometimes we have to think twice before we pick up a phone, or even if I call a student down to the office, it's just unrelated to anything related to discipline, but people get nervous when they get a call from the principal. So
Parents
we do-
always
we do
worry
have
about that
We do have
call.
that effect, yeah.
And we really shouldn't. I mean, if a parent is being called, I mean, it's only because the educator wants to help the child. So
Absolutely.
it really is a dual.
And I think to mention about that phone call that parents receive from teachers or principals, and they immediately think about the negative, that is something that I know I try to encourage our teachers in RDLS to make sure that they make positive phone calls. So they're in constant communication with the parents, not to pick up the phone only when there is a problem, but also when something good has happened in the classroom, so that way parents don't get so scared when they see that phone, that area code and that phone number.
It's
Yep.
Richfield Public Schools on the ID. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about dual language here. I mean, I know the dual language school in Richfield is Spanish, and I know that the parents have sent their kids there, just absolutely love it. But tell me how that works, and if I was going to send a child, what would I expect from the dual language school?
Sure. And for us, we always recommend, we prefer that our students start in kindergarten. So they start when they are 5 years old, because then it will be easier to go through the whole program. And the way it happens is when enrollment takes place, we try to balance out the admission of our students, so that 50% of our students are English speaking and the other 50% are Spanish speaking. Of course, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes one is 70, the other one is 30, but we try as much as possible to balance out, so that in that case, the children will be in the classroom modeling to each other, because the instruction that takes place in the classroom is going to be only in Spanish, only Spanish. So what happened, our Spanish speakers that have that language, number one, we call it, they are going to be the model for the English speaking classmates who do not know any Spanish and do not understand. So they become kind of the little mini interpreters. They'll be the ones who interpret for the teacher, because the teacher will not speak English in the classroom at all. no matter what happens. It's only Spanish, lots of sign language. And I think it goes along with us Latin people. We use our hands a lot, so that helps that we're teaching the Spanish because we use a lot of body language those first 2 years. Kinder and first grade, 90% of the instruction is only in Spanish, 10% is in English, and that 10% is through the other content areas like music, physical education, computer, library, and art. That is where they receive that 10%. Students who are English learners, they get pulled out in kinder and first grade for about 25, 30 minutes a day to receive English instruction, separate from the classroom because we don't want English in the classroom. We want to maintain
Yes.
that immersion in Spanish. Now, as they get older, then we reduce the instruction in Spanish and we increase English. So
Oh,
then,
that's where the
that's
English
how it
starts,
becomes
yeah.
gradually. So by the time they come to second grade, that's when we first start introducing some English in the classroom. Mostly it's going to be oral development. So the students are going to be listening to the teacher give a read aloud or talking about science or social study. But we are not yet teaching literacy. Literacy instruction starts in third grade in English. So, and then gradually by the time they get to fifth grade, then half of the day is in Spanish and the other half is in English. So that way they leave RDLS being dual.
And that, logically anyway, as a science person,
Yep.
I have to have things logically. That makes sense because, with the people who speak only English, they really do have to immerse to really learn it fast and completely.
Yeah.
So, How many students do you have?
We vary in between 450 to 460. That has been the number from the beginning. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's
it's
cool.
at least 2 classrooms per grade?
We have 3 per grade. Sometimes we have, like this year, we have 2 grades and we have 4 classrooms.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's-
but always it has been 4 or 3.
Okay. And then what's your staff, teaching staff, I should say? How many, I guess I could figure out by
Yep.
multiplying, but you probably know the number.
Depending on how many classrooms we have, then we'll have 20 classrooms, 20 teachers, and they have to be fluent in both languages. So they have to be assessed to make sure that they are fluent in that Spanish, to make sure that they are doing the best on the instruction in Spanish. And then our specialists do not speak Spanish because they are the ones that are going to be helping with that English development. So the rest of the personnel, like ESL teachers, our office personnel, social workers, they all are bilingual. So they all,
Bilingual.
so that way we can provide support for families when
For
we
both.
connect,
Yeah.
both families.
That's interesting. Do you, of the non-Spanish speakers coming into kindergarten, is that a diverse group also, or is it more white or?
It varies from year to year. We have currently in the building some families that come directly from Africa, from Asia. So we do have, so there is some, there is a mixture, but majority will be Caucasians, from here. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it
And
is.
they do get, obviously, at the end of the year, be it in English or in Spanish, or maybe both, they have to meet some basic goals. And I would say first graders, they got to count and things like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
some of your basic math.
Yeah, we follow the Minnesota standards, so we have to follow whatever Minnesota standards are a requirement for each subject. We do it, but in Spanish. Everything in Spanish. So like whatever Joey uses in his building for math, we use it, but ours is in Spanish. Literacy, we use it, but in Spanish. So everything is just the opposite language. And then later on, third grade to fifth grade, then we have to do both. So one thing you'll hear in immersion is that we don't have enough hours of the day, because just think about it. We need to teach reading and writing in both languages. We have to do math, everything,
In both
sometime in
languages.
both languages. So yeah, we have to balance out.
So they're, if I may put it this way, those students are hard worked.
They are.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Our brain develops in a way, always going back and forth between 2 languages. Yeah.
And obviously, I can think of an answer in today's world. It's so important to use multiple languages. Is that what the parents are looking for, in our global comedy? and all that kind of thing?
It might be one of the reasons. Another reason is that research shows that the students who come to a dual program, and in this case a Spanish immersion dual program, they also have done academically better. There is a lower rate of dropout in high school. And yes, thinking about, at the same time, another of the advantages that research shows, and RDLS is a proof of it, is children grow up with a respect for other cultures and languages. So there is that tolerance, that we accept each other for what we are and who we are. So I believe that's another advantage, and many families want that in their children, and that's one of the reasons they select the dual immersion. On top of being bilingual and on top of being proficient in our standard tests in those languages, so they also that attitude of that being positive about other cultures and other languages.
And I think also everybody agrees that learning language as a young child is easier than trying to learn it in high school or college when probably some of us did it.
Yep. I have that experience. I have to learn English as an adult.
Yeah.
So I would say it's easier to learn it from 5 years old. One of the things I love to see in our school in September, our non-Spanish speakers, they cry. And they look at the teacher and they're frustrated and say, I don't understand you, please speak English. And it's like, nope, only Spanish. Now, at this time of the year, when I eat lunch with them, they understand that they're speaking Spanish. So
And
it's
they're
beautiful
probably
to
like
see.
that.
Yeah. So
5
that
feet
is,
a mile a minute.
and all because they are so young, so
Yeah.
they can assimilate it and learn it.
Okay, well, we're going to a totally different kind of school in a way, but I'm sure some of the principles and thought process and how you handle kids is the same. But the STEM school. Now, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. Did I
Correct.
do it right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is a STEM school and what does it do? I mean, obviously, I gave a clue.
Yeah, so our focus is in science, technology, engineering, math. And like the dual language school or Centennial or Sheridan, I would say our school is very similar before we're different. And similar in the sense that we are a public school in Minnesota, we have standards that we have to follow, and we're all part of the Richfield schools. So we have the same curriculum in math and in literacy, and then we have some of the same science resources. And then now with state standards, other schools have to do a little bit of work with engineering too. So there's really STEM elements in all of our schools now. But where we work to differentiate ourselves from other schools within our district or other schools in general in elementary setting is to do more science and more engineering. That's really our focus. Like the RDLS school focusing with Spanish and English is an immersion. We do that with science and engineering and technology and math. So that's really what our focus is. Our day is busy. We're not learning different languages, but yes, it's very busy. Our school day isn't any longer, and our calendar year isn't any longer too. So we've really had to integrate those elements of science, technology, engineering, math throughout the day. So we've had to kind of re-engineer our curriculum to bring in those aspects. So when we're doing science, we're reading about it, or we're writing about it, or we're working with engineering and we're applying mathematics or using technology to present a concept or an idea that the kids have used or learned.
Oh, sure. So communication skills and all of that in terms of digital would all apply when it comes to that.
That's probably one of our biggest changes within our curriculum over the last couple of years is really the enhancement of the technology pieces with coding that the kids are involved with now, and writing that even at the kindergarten level.
Oh my goodness.
So that's
I never did understand that.
Yeah, so it fits very naturally for them, but that's probably one of our newest focuses over the last few years is to bring that element in.
Wow. So I just glanced at your curriculum. I mean, it was up there in the matrix, and I see monarchs are there at one time of the day, and then there's something called rock in the U.S. I mean, I assume that was the different kind of geology rocks.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
so you're kind of fitting that in. So if they're working on rocks, they're reading about rocks, they're writing about rocks.
Yep. Yeah, and with
and
the
weighing
STEM,
rocks in terms of the
and
math.
with the STEM school too, the nice thing with the STEM curriculum is it's very broad. So I would say there's a lot of right answers as far as how you want to approach it. And what I've found with our school or looking at other STEM schools is they usually use the natural resources around them to help kind of identify their school. So if I look at the Richfield STEM school, I would say our school leans more environmental STEM. So we have a strong partnership with Wood Lake. We use our beautiful courtyard that we have, or some of the
gonna
other
bring
water
that
access points around Richfield. I always say if Boston Scientific or 3M were across the street, we'd probably have elements of working with that community partner. But environmental STEM is probably how mostly our school leans. And it works very well for us too. So we do a lot of work with different organisms. You talked about monarchs. We have some bookend events at our school where we start K-5 curriculum together with monarchs, and we end in our garden laboratory that we're doing things. What's new for our building, we started last year, and we're just in our first year with this partnership, is with the Mayo Clinic in the University of Minnesota. So that's a new
Wow.
partnership for our school. Last year in the summer, we had 10 teachers from our building that did an internship for 2 weeks with the Mayo University of Minnesota, and they're down there to do more sophisticated professional development in the area of STEM, rework, retool curriculum, and then bring that back for our kids. And so we're working through that right now, and hopefully we'll have another cohort go through this summer. I think really the goal is trying to create pathways from our school through the middle school and then up to the high school. And so the organism that the students will be working with now are zebrafish.
Oh,
And
yes.
so they'll be using the zebrafish to study and answer their science questions through investigations.
Well, in one of the buildings we managed, we had a huge developmental biology group, and we had tanks and tanks and tanks of zebrafish that we had to keep
Yeah.
warm and the water fresh and changing and everything else.
They're a
So,
great species for the school because they develop so fast. So the kids can actually see them develop real time. So that's a great organism for us to use in our school.
And they stay contained better than fruit flies. My daughter had a science project on fruit flies, and I was finding fruit flies around the house for a whole year or so. Yeah.
Yes.
And I should compliment you. I know a couple of years ago, as a part of the Richfield beautiful garden tours, we actually went to the stem cell school.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
stem cell. I've got science on my mind. STEM school, and saw the good work that you guys had done there.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know the STEM teachers. I think at over 2 years you had them certified.
Yeah, when we were starting our school, we had the really important part of that was going to be the professional development. And so I'm really proud of the district's commitment to the teachers on this and developing them professionally, because this was very new. I had certainly taught math. We're really comfortable with technology. We've worked with science before, but really engineering was completely new. We didn't have any mechanical engineers on staff that changed their major to elementary ed. I'm sure they're somewhere. We didn't have any. And so for our school to have a strong foundation was to really have robust, important, great staff development. And so we were able to do that over 2 years for our classroom teachers to become certified in STEM. And at the time we were doing that, that was really unheard of across the nation. And so our school has been a leader in that. And now with our partnership with the Mayo Clinic, we continue to invest in the teacher. They are the most important thing to making STEM happen in the school is the teacher. And so, and actually this Thursday, we're going to have the Minnesota Department of Education and the National Association of Science teachers at our school to learn more about the staff development program that we've done with teachers and to see what we've done. So it's really exciting what those foundational pieces have done for our school, and as we continue to get better at what we're doing.
And that would be no different than the fact that you require all of your teachers to be fluent bilingually.
Yeah, to be dual in bilingual in Spanish. And then we have worked with University of Minnesota also in professional development to make sure that we do the best practices for immersion, because just knowing the Spanish is not enough. It's knowing how to teach in an immersion program.
And
So
that
the
comes
same.
through, I'm sure,
Yeah.
with you too. It's not just knowing the basic material, not knowing Spanish, not knowing science, not knowing anything from FIAD to industrial arts or whatever they're calling them these days. It's how to reach the student and how to most effectively teach them. That's so important. And I'm sure all the teachers are, doing developmental work or taking classes during the summertime, pretty much, as most teachers do. So, okay, junior high is a special group. I always say, since
What do
I
you
do
mean by
volunteer
special
in
now?
the
Hold on a
6th grade, in the beginning of the year, you have basically elementary kids. And by the end of the year, you have children, no longer children, they're really blossoming into young adults. And then there's the difference. Sometimes the girls are much further ahead than the boys, and it's just a fascinating time of
Yeah,
everybody's
absolutely.
life. But it gives parents gray hair, ultimately.
Well, I often wonder, when we do orientations and tours and things such as that, and I often ask the parents and the kids, who's more nervous? And I'm putting my money on the parents are more nervous about that transition, and I get that. I'm a parent myself, and my oldest isn't quite there, and my wife's a middle school teacher, and even we feel that pending change from elementary to middle school. But we do a lot of things to help with that transition so that it isn't so scary. And so some of the things we do, we team our students, so we split the school into teams. I know you've been in our building. and
Yeah, but
thank
talk
you for
more
volunteering.
about that.
Yeah, so what we do is we have our math, English, science, and social studies teachers split into teams. And so when kids come in, rather than being one of 300 kids, just, use the term junior high, which is what I went to, where they just put you wherever it worked in the schedule. We actually run a middle school model, which has the core teams with the math, English, science, social studies. We split the kids up, and then it makes the school feel a lot smaller. The classrooms are right next to each other. The lockers are right outside of the classroom, so kids don't have to make a big transition to a big scary building. It breaks it up and makes it a lot easier for them to feel like they're part of a smaller community. We still create opportunities for all the kids to mix, so when they come in 6th grade, all the kids from all of our 4 elementary buildings do mix and have opportunities to meet each other, but we do also put them in those core teams to really focus on. And it's great for parents if they're having challenges or they need extra supports. They know that they can connect with that core group of teachers and make those relationships. So we've had a lot of success with that, but it is fun watching them come in. Every fall I kind of get this big smile on my face by how little those 6th graders are. And I'll tell you, I was just looking at an 8th grader this morning at breakfast thinking he's going to be taller than me by the time we get to the end of the year. So I stand a little taller when I'm around him because I'm like, I don't know if I want him to be taller than me, but there definitely are some who are. And so I always laugh too, we do something called the Academic Achievement Awards for our students. We have an A honor roll, which is all A's, and then we have an A-B honor roll, which is higher than that traditional B honor roll. The kids have to get all A's or B's, no C's. We had 360 kids make that our first trimester, but I always shake their
goodness.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I always shake their hands when they come across the stage. And that first time in 6th grade, I have to bend over to shake their hand. And by the end of 8th grade, we're looking eye to eye. And so it's just really fun to watch that transition happen. And I think, people talk about middle school, it's scary or whatever it might be. And we who love and enjoy working in a middle school, we kind of laugh because it's what we like to do, and we enjoy watching that fun transition as they really do come in children and leave young adults ready to take on some great things.
Yeah, it's. I have to compliment. I was telling somebody earlier today or maybe yesterday, that at least what I see in the classroom, and again, I'm only there once a week. The lack of bullying. I said there's a little bit of teasing, which is expected, and I think it's good for kids to learn how to deal with that. But I'm really amazed at that. Do you work really hard? And that's really a question to all of you. What do you do in the middle school to
Yeah, we
have
definitely
kids
yeah.
really respect each other?
Yeah, we definitely do a lot. I think with that teaming model, we're able to. Well, I talk about the kids come from the different schools where they have the different mascots, and in our building, I have the term Spartanizing, and so we talk about everybody becomes a Spartan when they come to the middle school. We are the only middle school, and so we do a lot to set the tone in the building. And I know they're already doing a lot on bullying. I'll let them speak to that in a minute, but I'm lucky to have some great staff who work hard to set a great tone of collaboration and respect. My counselors, Toby and Karen, do a lot with No Name Calling Week and different initiatives. My assistant principal led a great anti-bullying campaign. But we really have great kids, and so we just don't have a lot of it. So as much as we make efforts on it, it's not in response to a problem. It's knowing that it can happen and being proactive in avoiding that. But we really have great kids, and our kids just don't do a lot of it. But like you said, you've been there. Kids are kids. I mean, when you're age 11 to 14, mistakes are made, and they're not perfect. But we just don't have a lot of that, out there. And one of the things too is I think it also speaks to leadership. And when I hear the horror stories of bullying, what always shocks me, both as an educator and as a parent, is when I hear, we talk to the teacher, and then we talk to the assistant principal, and we talk to the principal, and nothing ever happened. And I don't know that that's what really was the case, but when I hear that, it always saddens me, because we never don't do anything. If a child brings an issue or a parent brings an issue, we address it. We're not afraid to address it. It's just what we do. And so if you can bring a concern to any one of my staff, my assistant principal, my dean, myself, we're going to respond to it. So it doesn't really matter who a child or a parent would report something to, we're going to follow up on that. My joke with the kids, sometimes kids are nervous, and I say, you may be intimidated by somebody in the school, but you can rest assured that I am not intimidated by any child in the school, so we can have that conversation, and it just becomes a reteaching sometimes, but we try to be proactive and teach. But I know that, I'll let you guys speak that my elementary colleagues here do a lot to set a tone as well prior to their arrival in our building.
How about dual language? I mean, again, these little kindergartners are
Coming in.
don't even know how to express themselves. So maybe that stops bullying right there. I don't know. But how do you handle that?
I think it's what Brian was saying, being proactive. As a principal, I give the permission to my teachers to use a few weeks at the beginning of the year to just build a community. So they take the time to build a community where there is respect, responsibility, and they try to be safe. So they create expectations or rules together. The teacher does not come with the rules and these are the rules that I have. No, the community builds them together.
Oh, yeah.
And then so that way they are all accountable for it. Our teachers, like this summer, they received training on Envoy, which is one of the philosophies to help with the classroom management. Many of our teachers have received training in responsive classroom, which also is another one. So we always try to maintain that positive environment. We have great kids, but I believe it has to do with the leadership in the classroom, what the teachers have done at the beginning of the year, and then the support that we receive from parents, the parents helping us. And the same thing like Brian was saying, that whenever there is a concern, even minor one, we immediately address it. We address it and we get back to the student, we get back to the parents, we create plans. So I think it's being proactive. So that's why we don't see the bullying in the building. Yeah.
And I'm sure STEM has the same philosophy, and you were in Sheridan. So again,
Yeah, absolutely. I think Richfield does that very well. We take direction from the state with the state laws around bullying and our board policies with bullying. Speaking specifically for our school, we use the OVAS bully prevention curriculum in our school. It's part of our overall positive behavior intervention system, PBIS, that we use. But we're constantly teaching that, what bullying is and what it's not. Because not every situation can be, and so really trying to educate kids about what it is, how they get support for that. And Mr. Zambrino brings up a good point too, is they're kids and they're learning. And so we teach behavior like we teach fractions. Not everyone gets it the first time, and so we're constantly having to reteach how we interact with each other, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. It's great when kids get it the first time. Not all of them do. We keep working through that. We know that there's mistakes, but we try to address those proactively and from a place of learning, because we are a school. So just as much we teach about STEM as we're also teaching about citizenship and how we get along with each other and how we solve problems collaboratively. Those things are very important, and it really sets the environment to be positive, because if they're not in a positive environment that's warm and welcoming and encouraging, it's really hard for them to learn. So that's a really important work, and I'm really proud of the work that Richfield does and how they've approached that.
Yeah, I mean, we all know families, all different sorts of families. Every once in a while there is a child that for whatever reason isn't getting the love and support at home, and I happen to think that if he doesn't get it at the school, I don't think he's ever going to get it. So, you know, I think, you know, you guys may be exactly what the child needs for him to be a success in life. I mean, do you, I mean, it's got to be a source of pride when that moment happens and the child really, you're able to give him something that he needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, sometimes people get frustrated and say, you know, there's so much put on schools and, you know, that schools shouldn't have to do this or schools shouldn't have to do that. And I just respectfully disagree, because if there's a need that we have in raising great citizens and great people, then why not have a school support that? So obviously it's great when parents are supportive and kids have a, you know, the ideal home life, but they don't all have that, like you said, and some of them, and not through even a fault. Sometimes parents are working so many jobs and
Yes.
you know, so many circumstances. You know
Yes.
how many different things families can face, and so if we have to teach social skills, we'll teach the social skills, because we know that that's what kids need to be successful in the job place and in their life. And so if that falls on us, that falls on us. It's great when some of those things don't take up as much time as they do, but if that's what we have to do, like Joey said, we'll teach and we'll reteach, and that just becomes part of our curriculum, so to speak.
And I know all the schools, I'm sure, you have like the breakfast in the morning. Does the middle school do that too?
Yep, we have, all students are able to get a free breakfast, and we have many, you know, we have hundreds of kids who do, and obviously the point being that research is clear that when students have food in their stomach, it activates their brain and it takes their mind off of worries and things such as that. And so all kids can have a free breakfast, doesn't matter what their status is at home. And then we also do have a lunch program where about 70% of our students receive a free or reduced price lunch. And so for a lot of kids, you know, that's 2 meals a day, and that's a really important thing. And when we think about our calendar and when we're in school and when we're not in school, we know that is stressful for our kids when they're not in school, because it's such a stable place and a routine, and those meals really mean a lot to them.
If I may share, that was something last year at the end of the year, I just noticed, especially for some of the kids, they were good kids. I mean, they were the higher performers, let's put it that way. And I noticed them just totally just all stressed out and antsy and concerned stress, if you know what I mean. I said, what the heck's going on? And when your teacher said, well, some of them, they find it stressful to face the summer ahead. They don't know what the summer's going to bring, and it's hard for them. And the school is a stability. So I thought, well, that explains it. One of the things, music, art, in my mind, these are all important. Now, you mentioned something about music. The dual language, there's a music component to it. Is that correct?
Yes, we have, like in the other elementary school, 4 of our schools, one of our specialists or preparation time is music. So we do have it. The teacher does not speak Spanish. That's the only difference. But otherwise, they follow the same curriculum that they have in the other elementary schools.
Yeah,
so
so they're
every
learning
child will receive
Some
music. Yep.
and some art.
Yep, art and physical education, and then they have also a time to go to the library and to the computer lab. So.
Okay. And you do that too then over there?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say if we were going back in time and naming our school, it wouldn't be a STEM school, it would be a STEAM school. And adding the arts into that, because we've worked really hard to integrate STEM into all areas of our school, but in particular as you look at the arts for that. So they do a wonderful job of bringing those components of engineering and science in to all of our specialists. But that's something that is, I know, a great source of pride for our school and how that's integrated into our specialist areas.
For you, being that, the Spanish is the cultural setting, so to speak, are they learning songs in Spanish then? And
They do some. The teacher tries to find some time, and then just with the technology they can listen to it. Otherwise, in the classrooms, the younger grades, especially if you walk into kindergarten, there is a lot of singing, and it's always in Spanish. So they're learning. And we do have a big event in December. We call it the Latin American Festival, where each classroom represents a country of the Latin countries, and is, of course, Spanish music. So it can be from Spain or any country from Central or South America. So it's all in Spanish, and the children get to sing and dance Latin music.
do they get to costume too?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
how neat.
Yeah. And parents look forward. Parents love that
Oh, I
event
can
because it brings up the culture of the Latin American.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I think that's what some people worry about, is getting those other basics, the art, the music, the FIED, and all that. And I think research is also beginning to show that FIED is so important, physical activity to these kids. And in junior high, I know there's band and choir too, probably, huh? And the kids can participate in. Are they required to do some music, or is that kind of
So,
gone by the wayside?
We
over the
do a
years?
general music class for our sixth graders, and then from there that gives them the chance to experience music. I mean, we want everybody to have a musical experience, but then also our band and choir teacher collaborate on that and have the opportunity to introduce the kids to what the band and choir courses look like, and so they can actually make a more informed decision. Because we're in middle school, the kids don't actually choose many of their classes. We run what we call an exploratory model. So the art and the PE and the health, we just schedule the kids into those. The middle school philosophy is just that they're just not ready to make those decisions. I always give the funny example of a child who said, I'm not going to take computer class because I want to be a police officer. Knowing what we know, there's a computer in every squad car, so those are the kinds of things we don't want kids, making those choices. But band and choir are great options for the kids, and many do, and so they get general music in sixth grade, and then they have the chance to take band and choir. And one of the things that is a great point of pride, I think, as principal, is how diverse our band is. I've worked in city schools, and a lot of times, frankly, it's just the white kids who participate in band. We've eliminated a lot of barriers in terms of cost and things for kids to participate in band. It's a very diverse band, and in fact, I've heard some other schools' bands recently, and ours stacks up really high compared to those bands. Our band director Mr. Christensen does a great job with them.
Yeah, not last year, but the year before, I went to a concert, and I must say, they impressed the heck out of me. Those, well, I still call them little. They're not so little anymore, but it is wonderful. Another topic that hits the news, and there's always discussion, this and that, is that high school kids should be starting school later, and then maybe elementary, junior high should start a little earlier. Now that creates all sorts of problems, and I'm looking at
Danger.
What is the feeling as principals? How do you see that issue? Or maybe you don't want to say it.
I can't speak for the high school. I can speak for the elementary. We're an early start school.
Oh, you are?
So,
What
our
time do
kids
you
started
start?
come in at 7:25 to the classrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And we take attendance at 7:45, and we dismiss at 2:10.
Oh,
And I've worked in buildings that have started at 8:30 and at 9 o'clock, and are in school till 3:30 and almost 4 o'clock. So I like the early start.
well,
that
that's
we
what
have
they say. It's good
our-
for the
our
little kids. Yeah.
It works well. It's a long September for kindergartners. They're not used to school in general, I think, for a lot of them, but it's early. But usually by the end of September,
They're ready.
their endurance and stamina is different, and so I think there's a lot of great learning time from that 8 o'clock till to noon till we get into the afternoon. So I enjoy it with the early start, but I know that's can be very different for people that haven't gone that early.
Yeah. So you guys already are. When does the middle school start?
We start our kids come into this building as early as 7:30, but the first bell they get is 7:55. Lets them come up into the building. They get about 10 minutes to transition. 8:05 we take attendance and the day gets started. So really, classes from 8:05 to 2:40.
Okay.
So kind of middle tier, maybe on the slightly on the earlier end. But when you think about the tiers of times that schools start, we're kind of in the middle of the road and. It seems really good for our kids. They seem to do well with that time. Some of them look a little groggy in the morning, but one of the things that's hard is, and I don't know all the research. I know that some of the research I've read is that if you start kids later, they stay up later, and if you start them earlier, they go to bed earlier. So I think kids, like adults, adjust their schedule to what time they have to be where they need to be, and so I think our schedule has worked really well for the middle school.
Yeah, and that is early. I mean, I know some elementaries are starting at 9 o'clock, which to me, it's kind of later. And it probably helps out parents too, because that way they don't have to have daycare before.
Yeah, we have most of our daycare needs are after school because we're out early,
Yeah.
earlier than usual. So we don't see a lot of daycare needs.
Yeah,
The early start, definitely after
Yeah.
school.
yeah, it's the after group.
Yeah,
And do you both have daycare in the building?
we do.
Yes.
And all of the Richfield schools have that, right? Or-
Yep. in
I mean, the elementary
The
schools,
elementary, yep.
obviously. You don't need it at the,
Yeah.
well, maybe you need it at the junior high sometimes. I've told some parents, young parents, I said, the time you need to be home with your kids it's after school when they're in junior high. That's the age where they can kind of start going the wrong path. But, okay, we've talked about quite a bit. Anything else that you think parents or people, the public should know about schools in Juntral? I know the one thing I hate is, well, they only teach 9 months. Why are we paying them, the salaries we're paying them? That's an old thing that just never goes away. How do you respond with the fact that your teachers deserve the pay they get?
I would say, where I'm sitting, they're very highly educated. To be an effective teacher today, you almost need to be at a master's degree or beyond. And so a lot of our teachers have invested a lot of time and money, frankly, to get the level of education they have. And you've been in my building and you've seen how hard the staff work. I don't know that most people realize the intensity that you are always on. And so when I say 8:05 to 2:40, they are on 8:05 to 2:40. And our teachers, for example, they have what we call a duty-free lunch. I can't schedule anything on their lunch. And I can't tell you how many of them have kids with them at lunch, making up tests, giving them extra support after school hours, even some with before school hours. And they're just giving and giving and giving to these kids. And then a lot of them teach summer school, and there's some pay for that, but it's honestly not a lot of money to give up that time with their own families and things that they could be doing. And so our teachers are highly trained, highly educated. They bring a lot, and so I think it's a sound investment that taxpayers can feel really good about. And then what the service is for the children and how important that is for a good society, it's a really, really good investment.
Yeah, and I think teachers, they take work home with them.
Absolutely, yeah, and just go along with Mr. Zambrino saying too is they do a ton of work, and so much of that is not seen. We had teachers in our building at 6:15 this morning. They're not starting till 7. The kids are in there for another hour, and before I came over here at 6 o'clock, there were still 6 of them upstairs getting ready for the next day, and it extends into the evening hours and the summer hours where they are looking at their curriculum on their own time, getting together and really in trying to make that improvement, take that next step with their teaching or their learning for the kids. So yeah, I think they're compensated well, and I think they deserve it because they certainly work hard for it.
And I would say the same, that many of our teachers during the summer, they are working on curriculum and sometimes even taking classes to continue to grow so that they do their best job, so they need that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that keeps coming up, and I get very upset at it, so I wanted you guys to comment on that.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it's a fair question. People should ask. I mean, we want to be good stewards with the taxpayers' dollars, and that's something we do focus on, making sure that we can turn back and say, you've made a sound investment in the schools, and the community in Richfield over and over again steps up to the plate to support the schools, and I think we appreciate it, and I think they can rest knowing that it's a really good investment, and we take our work very seriously. All of our staff, not just our teachers. We have a lot of other staff who do so many things for the kids and for the community, and it's a really great investment.
Well, I know the League of Women Voters thinks you guys all do a great job. I can speak for them on that, and we will support you. Well, we've reached the end of our hour, and I am very appreciative that you have been here, and again, thank you for taking time away from your families to be here, so that's really helpful. And to my public, again, my guests have been Marta Chauvin. I'm sorry, this German has a little bit of trouble with Middle Eastern names. And you're the principal at the Dual Language Immersion School. And Joey Page, who's principal of the STEM school. And then Brian Zambrino, who's principal at junior high. And if I may say something, there's programs going on all the time at the various schools, and certainly at the high school. And Richfield, just go online and take a look at what's out there and go see what the future citizens of the world look like. It is just tremendous to see those kids. And I know I wait for the senior, the senior high plays and musicals every year because they're wonderful. And you can go to free band concerts. I mean, it's really a good thing to do. And the junior high band concert's always good. And I know you guys have programs too, so
Always.
it's worth it.
Yeah.
So. And to my viewers, again, thanks for joining us, watching Inside the Issues, sponsored by the League of Women Voters Richfield. And good night.